Welcome back, film clubbers. What's happening? Happy October. It's me again, Carson. I'm sitting here with my buddy Groot, and we watched this week's movie, and it's really awesome. I don't know if you watched Don't Look Now, but 1973's Don't Look Now. It's our first like horror movie for October. Last October, we did like nothing but pretty gnarly movies, and we did Battles of Algiers earlier, and anyway, we watched a proper spooky movie, and I don't know about you, no spoilers just yet, but I didn't really find it to be all that spooky. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah, we watched Don't Look Now. It is 1973. Nicolas Roeg directed this film based on a short story by Daphne du Maurier, which is a name I just love to say. Daphne du Maurier. Sounds so elegant. But yeah, based off a short story, a guy named Alan Scott, working with somebody else, worked on the screenplay. And it's incredible. This movie's really, 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 really good. In looking it up, it's in the book that I have, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. Some big wig company or institution named it one of the 10 best British films ever made. And it really, I'm struggling to find 10 other movies that are better than it, that are British movies. It is really, really, really good. Yeah, it stars Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie, both of whom give exceptional performances in this film, and we'll talk about them more specifically in a moment. This movie was nominated for a shit ton of BAFTAs: Best Picture, Best Director, Screenplay, Actor, Actress, Editor, Cinematography, Sound, and it actually won Best Cinematography. And it is stunning. I mean, in the first scene, which is an exceptional cinematic sequence all by itself, but in the opening couple of shots, I was just like, well, this is beautiful photography. And I knew nothing going into this movie. There are going to be some spoilers coming up fairly soon, so if you haven't watched it yet, I really urge you to go in as blind as possible. Don't watch the rest of this video. Go watch Don't Look Now. It's on Criterion Channel at the moment, and there's some really great supplemental material on there, some really great behind-the-scenes stuff and interviews, some of which I'm just going to be quoting from directly. So if you watch the film and either find it completely confusing, utterly terrifying, magnificently beautiful, or anything like that, do yourself a favor and listen to the people involved talk about making this movie. They all talk very highly about it. Everyone involved seems to feel like they worked on something special. A lot of the people who worked on the film call it Nicolas Roeg's greatest film. I've been meaning to pick some of his films for this club. I've been toying with picking Walkabout like a million times. I'm always like, should we do Walkabout this week? And for whatever reason, I don't pick it. And I'm kind of glad that this was the one that we wound up going with as our first Nicolas Roeg pick, because I was completely blown away. I was like, this is a guy who I should give way more of my attention to. I have not seen Man Who Fell to Earth. I have not seen Performance. There is that new version of The Witches that just came out, the Robert Zemeckis version, and Nicolas Roeg did the original with Angelica Houston. So if you're interested in the argument of which one is better, go watch them both, and you can tell me what you think. But yeah, let's dive in, man. This movie is really well known for a couple of things, like a terrifying twist ending that, if you're like me and you haven't seen this movie until 2020, not that terrifying of an ending in my humblest of opinion. There's some really cool editing techniques on display, many of which by now we've seen borrowed and stolen so many times that it's not necessarily going to feel super original while you're watching it. You might be like, oh, this is kind of cool. I don't really know what I'm looking at. And I want you to know that what you're looking at is kind of a cool editing technique that is underused, or it specifically was, kind of unused entirely in 73. I found out some cool stuff about the cinematography as well. I forget the name of the camera, but it was some fancy camera, and it was like just a little bit better than the one that Stanley Kubrick used for Barry Lyndon. And if you don't know, Barry Lyndon is very well known for its cinematography, specifically its use of natural light and candle light. And in watching some of the stuff on Criterion, They were talking about how this camera that they had that was just like one step up was actually able to capture so much more natural light. So a lot of the shots where they're in the dark church and there's candlelight, they're actually pretty naturally lit in those scenes. There's not a whole lot of other lights going on. And man, I mean, the photography is just stunning. I don't know if it was like a digital remastering that they have on Criterion Channel or whatnot, but it is a gorgeous movie. Some other things that this movie is well known for is a really quite hot, but also, let me not be so base. There's a quite an erotic sex scene, but it's not like pornographic by any means. And I say erotic, but I don't even think that's actually giving it what it deserves, which is this sequence is exceptional because we're actually seeing a very real display of love being made by two people who have been together for so long, and the intercutting of them getting dressed while we're seeing them undress and have this very passionate lovemaking scene. It's kind of a long scene. There's beautiful music underneath it, and I want to say it's like one of the best sex scenes I've ever seen in a movie, in the sense that like it doesn't at all feel like you're watching porn. It feels like you're watching people very much in love that really understand each other, that are very much with each other. And the way that the scene is cut and shot is just stunning. And from what I understand, in the script, all it said was they make love. I also found out that the idea to shoot the scene was brought on set, and it was the first scene that they shot. They were like, we need to do this, and if you guys are into it, we're just gonna go in here. And it was just the director, the DP, and like one other guy, and then the two actors. And you have to hear Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie talk about making this scene, because they talk about its incredible awkwardness, but also it's very like tactical. They did not really have sex, in case you're wondering, though it does look very convincing. It was all just masterful camera work and two very willing actors. So if you hadn't already heard that this scene is in the film, it is there, and it may be distracting for you, but I hope it's not, because it is a beautiful scene, especially now that we're finally arriving to some of the story. The opening of this film is very tragic, and part of what I didn't understand going into it, I thought it was going to be almost like Poltergeist, Exorcist, more demonic sort of. They're in Italy for After All, so I was thinking there's going to be some sort of, I don't know, demon gods and devils and whatnot. But it's about this child dies at the very beginning. Julie Christie and Donald Sutherland's daughter drowns in a pond, and expertly cut together, because we see him dealing with the slides and we see the kids playing outside, and there's just some really cool camera stuff happening. But then we get the sense that he's kind of intuiting that there's danger, and he just runs outside and he fetches his daughter out of the pond, and it's this slow motion shot where he screams, and it's really chilling. And the thing I realized about this movie as I was watching it is it's not a horror movie in the traditional sense. It's very much a drama. This is a drama film that just happens to have a very palpable sense of dread throughout. A lot of it comes from the idea that you never really know what you're looking at. A lot of what they put on screen was done on purpose to show you that nothing is what it seems. So throughout the film, we see Donald Sutherland see or not see this little girl in a red Mac running around. Sometimes he sees it, and sometimes just we see it. And sometimes we're like, did we just see that? And the amount of times that you just, it kind of felt like I was watching Final Destination, which I know is obviously totally different and way later, but the sense that like there's no like real monster, there's no real entity that's controlling the situation. It's just kind of death is upon us at every turn, it seems. Yeah, we'll get to some other stuff. I don't want to, it's funny. I hope you're not still watching this if you haven't watched the movie, because it's just going to keep getting spoiled and you don't want to ruin it for yourself. But the whole film is pretty much in Venice, Italy, and it's maybe The only other movie that really comes to mind, sadly, is The Tourist with Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp, which I always was like, this movie sucks, but man, Venice looks beautiful. And then I watched Don't Look Now, and I'm like, Venice is astonishing to look at, and used so beautifully in this film as this very moody, kind of scary, empty, isolating place. Um, there's a lot of parts, especially at night, where we're just hugging against these canals, and there's echoes everywhere and shadows everywhere, and people are constantly staring at them. And it's really it feels like an episode of Black Mirror or something. I'm making a lot of newer references to an older movie, and I'm just letting you know that the fun part about watching old movies is that that's going to happen to you, and you're going to realize that those newer things that you're referencing most likely are stealing from these things, or at least from whatever successfully stole from it somewhere in between. But yeah, the use of red is also very much a commonly commented on piece of this film. It was very deliberately used, this and not used at certain times. I guess there were parts where a little hint of red was thrown in a shot just to kind of make you be like, oh, what was that? And then other times it's used, with the little girl running around. But oh God, I haven't even gotten to the sisters. There's these two characters that I almost want them to have their whole own movie. It's they reminded me of kind of like the old couple, Ruth Gordon and her husband, in Rosemary's Baby, a little bit. Just in the sense that like there's something about them that's a little off, and it seems like maybe they know something that they're not telling us. And what's funny is, okay, now real spoiler time. Once we get closer and closer to the end, they've done nothing but try to warn Donald Sutherland that, hey man, we just have a sneaky suspicion that you're gonna die here and you got to get out of here. And they even mention that he has the gift of second sight and that he can kind of see the future and the whatever, but he's not listening to it. And so it is kind of interesting that his wife and these two women and his deceased daughter all seem to be in the know about something that he is either completely resisting or just oblivious to. And so then by the time we get to this twisty ending, which isn't really so much of a twist as much as like a shock, it's a rather dated shock, I must say. Yeah, okay, so let's just go for it. It's the end of the movie. There's all kinds of stuff that has gone down where he thinks he's seen his wife in Venice when she really just left to go see her son in England, and he doesn't know what's going on. And turns out this dude has been like seeing his own death happening before it happens. He has ESP or whatever. He's got this second sight. They keep referring to it. And so he catches a glimpse of the little red jacketed girl, and we're led to believe the whole film that it is perhaps the ghost of his daughter or something. And it turns out he corners this little girl, and there's some wonderful editing where we see Julie Christie and back to him and to the back of this red coat, and it's so gripping. You're like, oh, what is it gonna be? And she turns around and it's like this little old lady who slashes his throat. And you're like, wait, so the end of this movie is that there's a little person running around Venice murdering people? So I found it a little kind of like, all right, I see how it was a good device to use in the sense that like, yeah, you might think it's the ghost of your daughter when really it's just this violent little person. But it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I've read reviews, and when I posted that we were going to be watching this film, some people who saw it like when it came out was like, oh my God, it was so terrifying. And I'm over here like, I found the movie to be just completely grief-stricken and not scary, but just, I'm really excited to watch it again because I wonder, knowing what the whole film is, if that feeling of dread is still as palpable, or if I'll just kind of enjoy the technical aspects of the film. Because I think, 40 plus years removed from the release of this film, the things that do really stand the test of time are the editing, the camera work, the two central performances by Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie, and just the I guess the audacity of storytelling that Nicolas Roeg decided to use for this. His last name couldn't be more appropriate for his style. He is such a rogue. So yeah, I mean, I loved this movie. I thought it was really, really worth my time, and I'm really glad I watched it. I guess the only thing I could say is that my assumption was that it was going to be much scarier, so then I guess a part of me wishes it was scarier, but what I wound up getting was so much more original and unique and so much less than anything I'd ever seen before that I'm almost like, oh, sweet. I'm so glad you weren't what I thought it was. You're actually something completely new and different, and I look forward to revisiting this. So I do want to watch it again, but I also really want to watch some more Nick Roeg movies because, my God, he's super rad. So yeah, go watch Don't Look Now. I don't know why it's called that. I don't know why it's called Don't Look Now. You could convince me why you think it's called that, but I don't have any idea why it's called Don't Look Now. Anyway, like and comment and subscribe and follow us. You got to go to Instagram and Facebook. You got to follow us at Filmstruck Film Club. That's where you're going to get all of our weekly picks. That's where I'm going to put up any information that I think that you might want or need. But yeah, we're going to have another pickup for the beginning of the week. Maybe another spooky, scary one. And yeah, that's all I got. So yeah, I'm so glad that you checked out the film. Glad that you watched this video right here. And yeah, keep it real. Happy Halloween. I'll see you soon.